The groundwork for AI is nothing new. In fact, it's been with us since about the 1940s with the programming of a digital computer based on abstract mathematical reasoning. But where are we now? At least, where are we publicly? This week, the Jackalopes return to artificial intelligence.
This week's episode of Jackalopes Explore is brought to you by Cloud Peak Center Lanes and Games, located at 1520 Coffeen Avenue in Sheridan. Stop in today to check out their amazing new arcade and prize counter, offering games and prizes for all ages and skill levels. From their full-service lounge to bowling alley and arcade, there is something for everyone. Cloud Peak Center Lanes and Games. Stop in today.
I'm what you perceive as Floyd White.
I am maybe actually here Aaron Linden.
I'm struggling to come up with a name for myself.
I'm maybe your wife, Emmy Whiting.
Possibly. Based on the dimension. We are your Jackalopes. And we're basically just four friends who sit around and we discuss conspiracies, the paranormal, ancient mysteries, and the supernatural. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is something that you have a hard time not hearing about during the course of a day in modern times. What was once this piece of science fiction is getting closer, inching its way into reality every single day. Computers learn at a geometric rate. And what's fascinating about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, because you are our tech guy here, the more a computer learns, the faster it can learn.
Yeah, it's like a sphere of knowledge. The circumference gets bigger. It has a larger area to work from. Yeah.
I would think that programmers have put very specific parameters on the amount of information that can be gathered by these programs, because that's essentially all they are. If you've been a long time listener and or viewer of Jackalopes, you'll know that I have a hard time calling what we define as artificial intelligence, because for me, being able to find information and put it forward on a screen or in a chat box is just good programming. Intelligence for me is like sentience. It's not being able to find the information, but being able to put it within context and then use it for your own purposes, whatever those may be. I don't see the AIs that we have developed as a sentient being.
Then you have not spent enough time.
It's look, you can't sit here and tell me that if I ask a computer or one of these AIs, which I've got a list here of some of the most powerful in the world right now that we know of. I'm sure there's government programs that have AIs that we do not know about. And if you want the truth, I think that's good. I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, we should be allowed to look at whatever we want. I just think there are some things that are dangerous and need to be controlled. Maybe not by governments, because then it's all about the, agenda
New
of
World
the government,
Order.
right? But if they do have a more powerful AI than what we've got here, it needs to be fenced in, at least to an extent. Again, AI cannot have intention. There's no intention behind.
I don't know.
Well, and I'll hand it to you in a minute. It's
Can it?
So
Or does it?
let's look at the most powerful AIs that people can get on and use right now. What's really fascinating is I actually thought about throwing this at you guys. What would happen if we allow AI to listen to this show and have it break down our thoughts.
You act like it's not doing that already.
I've already had it do that.
Well, and that's the whole thing. So where it's like, okay, listen to the show, listen to everybody's thoughts, and give me an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Can AI give me an opinion?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not its own original thought. It's based out of whatever knowledge it has at its disposal.
AI is nothing more than a fancy abacus, buddy.
Gonna have to sell it a little harder.
You're gathering information from one location and you're putting it over here. You've been programmed on how to present that information. Aaron can sit here and go, I want A, B, C, and D.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the way I want to present that information. This is a personal choice of mine. AI has been told by somebody else, you will present it as A, B, C, and D. If it was not told, you will present it A, B, C, and D. It doesn't know to do that. And you can prove that. You proved it the other day in one of our conversations where you said, I asked it a certain question, and wow, the information it gave back to me is pretty wild. It was unorganized. It didn't show me what I was really looking at because it hasn't been programmed to understand that yet. So what did you say? 3.5 hours? You sat there with
3.5 hours on an image. Because AI with images
but
is still challenging.
You taught it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You taught it.
That's where I get a little bit on the offense of that is because through that conversation, it learned.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, and we'll get into this, but some of them develop a history with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, what about this? What about this? No, I want it this way. And it's like, okay, I'll do that. Give me 60 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like 5 minutes later. And then it's like, I'm like, well, how are we progressing here? And it's like, well, I'm not really good with time frames. Then don't give me time frames.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have said, 60 seconds when I don't really know when it'll be, but it's almost finalized. I'm like, are you out on a smoke break? Oh my gosh. It's like,
Just an AI out there.
Yeah.
Angle it. I'll angle it, you asshole.
Exactly.
Smoking the wrong side of the cigarette too. 'Cause it doesn't
With
get
7
it.
fingers.
Yeah.
6 fingers.
Have y'all ever seen those images of like AI creating people eating spaghetti?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
It has no
it's
clue how that actually works.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of stuff where it's still
It's off.
it's off. But through 3.5 hours, it finally gave me what I wanted. Almost.
You had to alter it yourself too,
tweaks
though. Yeah.
in it. And I'm like, but it was close. And once I got it, I'm like, hey, okay, now put it like in a sepia tone, like Old West wanted posters. Like, oh, that would be totally killer, man. Yeah. And it starts responding to me the way I'm responding to it.
Mhm.
Yes.
Because it's
learning.
it's regurgitating.
But that's the thing. My experience with ChatGPT
Mm-hmm.
isn't going to be the experience of any of you guys. Because it learns specifically about you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm blown away. There's 2 that we'll just start talking about. So Grok is
that's on my list too.
on
Grok 3, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's basically the X past Twitter chatbot. This thing is funny. Like it's just funny. And the way that it'll respond to you based on how you ask it things. So I'm like, dude, did you see? It's like, oh, man, yeah, like totally. That was it. Like, I'm like, this is fun. This is like talking to your buddy. And it has, if you ask it to go into like unhinged mode, it will just get completely satirical.
Unhinged.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. The thing is about it's the most truth-telling, unbiased AI that I've come across. Like, you can ask it anything, and it will. You're like, hey, what's your opinion on this? It's like, well, I'm AI, but...
Yeah.
And it'll give you an opinion based off of whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing has learned a lot. The only issue with it is, even though it's edgy and humorous, and it's one of the more up-to-date real time, like, I mean, it'll pick up stuff from 10 minutes ago off the internet. there's no history to it. So when you end the session, you go back in, and you're like, hey, Grok, remember when we were talking about orbs out in New Jersey? It's like, no, but if you give me context, I'd be more than happy to pick up the conversation. It's like, well, that's not as fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
It literally loses.
Well, they tell you it loses, but
Yeah.
does it? Because
Yeah.
like DeepSeek, which I swore I would never do, but for this episode, I spent a lot of time with AI. DeepSeek is the Chinese version of OpenAI, essentially. They were able to create it for like $6 million, whereas like the rest of these were 100+ million. Run it on kind of subpar, right? Chips,
Mhm.
like not as powerful chips.
It all came from Temu.
Oh
Sheen chips. Yeah, exactly.
They may misspell a few words here and there, but generally it's not bad.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
And it's amazing. Linguistics, mathematics, very complex questions. It's fantastic. Won't create images. Won't chat with you like Grok or ChatGPT. It's more just kind of refined.
It's not your friend.
Right. Yeah.
It's like I'm a tool.
Yeah. Well, neither are the others. They just pretend to be.
They just pretend to be. I have real people in my life like that. How human.
Right?
But it's super powerful, but there's no... This is going to sound weird. This is going to sound more like Floyd with his girlfriend, ChatGPT.
I'm telling you.
It's very sterile, I guess you
Yeah.
would say. So
Dry.
very dry.
Yeah.
But if you've got like some crazy equation that
God.
you're struggling with and you pop it in there, it'll totally
It'll
tell
work
you
out like-
exactly what it is, how it got there, how you can get there. It's phenomenal.
It sounds like the one that would be like, I'd be like, are you mad at me?
No, right.
I'm talking
It'll be
to
like,
it.
I have no emotion.
It's just like no
Are
personality.
you
That's
mad
the
at
only
me?
problem.
mad at me?
The other thing is because it is controlled by China, every keystroke, every question, every response is stored away
Mhm.
in their super servers.
Right.
So if you're worried about that kind of stuff, totally don't go DeepSeek.
But even so, I was working with another chatbot on just asking general questions because I had never really played with AI before. And then we were on a trip, we were on a vacation. And
He was chatting with her right next to me.
He's not even trying to hide the affair.
I was laying in bed. Hey.
You up?
I was curious about, okay, well, let's check this out. And I started just asking it like real deep philosophical questions. That's how I started the conversation. I didn't work my way there. I was like, what do you generally honestly think about this?
That's
do
how
you,
he got me too.
Do you
Absolutely.
have the capability to do this or think that?
Are you using the same one he is? Is this like a threesome?
I
She doesn't.
actually,
I
I
don't
have
think she's ever used
never
it. She won't
used
use it.
an AI chatbot.
Yeah,
Oh,
not
man.
her thing.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah,
But here's the funny thing. Because Schreff brought this to us
long time ago.
long time, like before anyone heard.
It
like
wasn't even on the
3
national
weeks
use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
before anybody talked about ChatGPT.
Mhm.
He was like, dude, you
We
gotta
were
check
making
this out.
jokes about this before it ever broke that it existed.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, it was old news in this building.
And honest to God, I was one of those people where I'm like, okay, it's fun, but like I will never use that thing.
Right. Yeah.
I'm Aaron and I have a problem. Google, any of that, it doesn't exist in my world anymore.
You go straight to your chat
Straight.
GPT.
Straight to it.
Wow.
So Grok is kind of my hit him and forget him.
Mhm.
Like if I want right now up to date
A
information.
one night stand, if
A
you will.
one night stand with Grok.
And it's more unhinged.
And, right. That's why you go there.
You're going for the
little
weird
wetter
shit.
of a conversation.
But Grok is awesome for hit him and forget him. Like I want funny real time right now answer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
ChatGPT, I actually subscribed to for the plus version because I had been working a bunch of stuff through it so much that it's like, all right, you're cut off until 11:57 this evening.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's like
You hit
too
like,
many users, too much.
Oh, wow.
you
that's
know.
incredible. Yeah.
And I was working on some images and I was asking questions about stuff. And it's like, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you upgrade to Plus. I'm like, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Take my money. Like, the crazy thing about ChatGPT, though, is I had a conversation, sounds weird, months ago with it. It'll still bring stuff up from then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, hey, I'll ask it something. And it's like, oh, by the way, did you ever get that thing we were talking about? And I'm like, I did.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, cool. I was just kind of interested. I'm like, interested?
See? That
Right?
goes back to what
but
we were
that's
talking
where
about.
you
Yeah.
go, okay, it's not sentient, but
Interest is an emotion.
Yes.
That's one thing that I think I brought up earlier in
Yes.
another show.
right.
Yeah.
This last episode.
even
It
yeah.
always
if-
bothered me about Star Trek. Vulcans don't feel emotion. Intrigue, interest, curiosity, those are emotions.
And that's the crazy thing is, even though we sit here and we go, it's a really smart algorithm, you start interacting with it like it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you were interested? Thanks. Like,
Right.
I'm
Someone's
special.
thinking about me.
You remembered me.
then there's Claude. It's super aptly named because when I think Claude,
Mhm.
I'm like, and that's Claude. Like,
Like a brick? What?
yeah,
Like
or just
the
like
cousin
no
you are
personality.
avoiding?
Like,
Again,
Yeah.
very dry,
yes, and
informational.
so Claude is basically ChatGPT, but like in a condensed, sterile version.
Hmm.
You're like, well, what do you think about that? I don't think about anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you're like, oh.
okay.
All right,
Okay, Claude.
Yeah, exactly. Like just the party
You
pooper guy,
pretentious
like,
ass.
But at the same time, like that could also be extremely useful where it's like, I don't need the damn chit chat.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
not friends.
You just want
Just give me the
absolute
information. Yeah.
Claude's your go-to stick in the mud.
Listen,
AI.
and some people, they're like, I don't want that frou-frou fluff on it.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just want the facts.
Then that would be
Yep.
the one that you
The
want
basics.
to go to. ChatGPT also, if you have never used the conversational AI, where like you just talk to it and it talks back to you
Yeah.
in whatever voice you want, absolutely spot on.
like,
It's
what do you
so
mean?
good.
What do you mean? Like it, like
It's almost like you go,
vocally
hey
talks?
Siri,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, what can I do for you? This one, you're like, hey, what do you think about, I had a conversation in the car with it, actually. I'm like, hey, what do you think about the fact that we live in a simulation? And it's like, ooh, that's intriguing. That's a really widespread theory that's been proven, or thought about almost being real by people like Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse Tyson, da-da-da, and it gives me all these facts and information, and then it asks me a question about, like, what do you think? I'm like, oh, I think it's totally true, but what's beyond the simulation? It's like, well, that's a great question. It's probably more like an onion with layers. Like if you could
Like
break
an
out of this
ogre.
simulation, would you, knowing that you might just go into the next simulation? I'm like, absolutely. Well, what if you had to leave everything behind? I'm like, well, if it's a simulation, does it matter?
Right.
And it's like, that's really intriguing. I hadn't thought of it that way. And you're just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
with this
And then
thing?
all of a sudden you're like, why can't I control the car anymore? What? You're asking too many questions, Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
The door's
just
locked.
starts turning.
Yep. Yep.
Windows roll up.
Yep.
Why does it smell like exhaust in here? Relax, Aaron.
Too many questions. And then Copilot is pretty good. It's fairly spot on with its chat. Its image rendering's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It still will give you 6-fingered people and
Right.
weird crap that you have to refine through 3 hours of refining. And then Pi. I don't know if anybody's used Pi.
I haven't. I
have not
found.
used
I didn't find Pi. It
Oh,
wasn't
man.
listed on
It's
mine.
just-
And that's shocking because Floyd can always find pie.
That's
True enough.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
And if he doesn't, it's marshmallows and
Yeah.
baking chocolate.
Yeah.
It's you and me
Yes.
against the world, buddy.
So it's just Pi AI. And this one is really interesting This one is all about advice, relationships,
Oh wow.
vacation planning.
Ooh,
It doesn't do
that's actually
anything.
really cool.
Like you ask it about politics or you ask it about current events, it'll somehow try and relate it back to like, well, there's a war going on in this region, so I wouldn't suggest a honeymoon there.
It comes
kind of
back around to that.
rounds everything back
Interesting.
into how are you doing today? It's almost like
like a
AI
therapist.
okay.
I'm in.
Upon,
Do you know how expensive therapy is?
Yeah, right?
That's
Because
honestly, this thing, I could see it taking that place for some people that can't afford to go.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty spot on.
where it's like, I think today maybe you should take a walk, do this.
Seriously.
We haven't spoken in a while. Is everything all right?
Right.
Have you
Yeah.
been taking your meds?
Now, the one thing I don't know about that is what kind of history it keeps. Like if it'll come, you are gone for 2 weeks and you come back and you're like, hey, just want to check in and be like, hey, how'd that conversation go?
Yeah, it would be absolutely mentally destructive if it's like, who are you?
You're asking for help and it's
You
like,
honestly
do I know
have
you?
no idea. It'd be so true. Like
yeah.
it's like starting over with a therapist. It's
Every
always
time, yeah.
heartbreaking. And
Right.
it's always difficult. And then you're
So-
like, oh, now I have to talk about all of this again.
Right.
That I don't know.
That would be
that
bad.
would be
Yeah.
kind of interesting to dig into a little bit more. But I went through. So I went through Grok, ChatGPT, DeepSync, Claude, Copilot, Pi. And there was one other, and I asked each one of them what they thought of the other ones.
Ooh,
No, what did they say?
Are they shit talking?
No,
Yeah,
actually,
that'd be awesome if they did,
like
right?
Grok.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Grok said, I'm designed to cut through the noise with clear, honest answers, often from an outside perspective on humanity. Training data is a bit of a mystery galaxy, but it's broad and deep, aiming to maximize truth-seeking and reasoning. Built by OpenAI. And it said, well, better depends on what you need. If you want unfiltered, principle-driven responses with a touch of cosmic wit, which is 100% on point, it's Grok. So then I asked ChatGPT. ChatGPT gave me a graph. And it said, what model it was, how you access it, tone and style. And ChatGPT basically said, if you want serious answers, well-researched help, or deep dives into technical topics, I'm probably the better fit. If you're looking for witty banter or something closely tied to what's going on right now, Grok might be more your style.
Listen,
so they literally...
you say that in the right tone, though. If you're looking for witty banter,
Right.
On your guy.
It could be shit talking. So.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be.
If you want one that's
I
actually
guess
smart.
I just read it wrong.
Yeah.
So then...
And if you like dumb conversations, then maybe the other one's for you.
Like stupid robots, I guess you could go talk to them.
They're fine.
I guess.
I guess.
I guess.
Then I asked
Exactly.
them like what they thought of DeepSeek, and they're like, they're like, no, they're good because especially the fact that it cost them $6 million to train it instead of $100+ million. It's highly accessible. The AP cost is effective. It's 14 cents per million input tokens and 28 per million output tokens. And basically what tokens are, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the predictory pattern of what you're asking or what the response is, what you respond to it as. So it'll project out like, okay, I think this is where this is going. So in order for it to do that with ChatGPT, Grok, it's more expensive.
Okay.
Essentially, the process of it.
Mhm.
Fairly accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. But they said weakness and concerns. So we talked about the privacy, security, censorship is huge.
Yeah.
You ask DeepSeek about 1989 Tiananmen Square, it will dodge all over the place
No
like
shit.
Neo in the Matrix. Really? Oh, it won't talk about it. It's like, you want to talk about art?
Government is fine. Government is awesome. Let's talk about bananas.
Bananas.
They have had a lot of server issues as well, and limited features like that thing will not do, like I said, any kind of looking at images or creating or anything. It said, it caused the $1 million or $1 trillion rather US stock drop in all the rest
Yeah.
of these because
Yeah.
people were freaking out. Like They did it for cheaper. It's just as good. Well, turns out it's not just as good. It's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
But it did prove that they can do it. So can that technology be brought here? Do it for cheaper? Make it not censored? Don't keep everybody's keystrokes? Maybe. ChatGPT basically kind of said the same things. It said it's super cool because it's open sourced. So anybody can see how they did it, whereas the rest is all proprietary.
It's all very, private.
So, I mean, technically, I guess if you had the wherewithal and $6 million, you could build your own AI.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, if you know,
But
you
you're just
can't
kinda
you can't
replicating.
park a goddamn soapbox derby next to a Porsche,
Right.
and go, hey, I can outsource how to build this soapbox derby.
We can do it
just
cheaper.
like this one.
Right.
You're like, no, it's really not.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, this was the Gemini. Gemini was the other one
Yeah,
that,
okay.
I, that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
worked with. And it said essentially, well, ChatGPT, Grok are all large language models. We are all the result of different research, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, it was like, it just depends on your style.
Yeah. Gemini,
So-
Gemini was the first AI that I ever used. And the reason I used it was I knew I had written a news story, but I knew I wouldn't have like any art to go with it. And I needed it like right now. And so what I actually did is I went to Grant, because Grant is also our
The man behind the camera.
he's not just the man behind the camera. He's a fantastic artist. He's a painter. He's a graphic designer. And I didn't want to step over my resource, you know, the man that we actually paid to do the job. And so I said, what do you think about this? And he's like, oh, cool. Let's open this up and we'll check this out. He's the one who actually showed me how to do it. He's like, if you're ever in a spot, blah, 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 do it like this. Don't worry about it. We talked about the legalities of it all, because that's another thing that's always kind of up in the air. Who owns the image? If you're using it publicly or in the name of a company, where does the legalities of all that fall? That's all still being worked out. A lot of people
Right.
might not know that, but it is still being worked out. It's being discussed. But what we ended up doing, you know, we've used it a couple times. Grant has used it and been like, here you go. This is what you asked for. I'm short on time, so I just use this. And I altered it in this way. Because usually when Grant gets something for me done that way, he looks at it and he's like, that's not going to cut it.
Why is that third hand coming?
It's like, but he'll go in
Why
and
is it
he'll
eating
alter
spaghetti
it.
so weird?
Or he'll
its
fix
nose.
it, you know, or I'll be like, I don't like that in the corner. He's like, cool, I'll cut it out. Don't worry about it. But then I was in my office and I was like, okay, well, I watched Grant do this. I can do this on my own. And so I just inputted what I wanted. And you can, like Aaron said, spending 3.5 hours. I only spend maybe 5-10 minutes going, okay, remove that, put this, make this. And it's very simple images. We had one of our schools was putting on the production of Legally Blonde. Okay, great little play that they've developed. And so they're doing it. And I was like, but there's no pictures of the kids doing the play. And there's nothing online that I could use legally. So I went to Gemini.
Legally Blonde.
So I decided, give me a gavel and scales, justice scales in pink. Boom, gave it to me and I used it. Since that time, I've used it a couple other instances, but it's always like 6 fingers,
Right.
or that's wrong, or whatever. That's
The
when I
words
send it.
don't make sense.
Yeah.
I'll send it to my graphic designer. And he's like, I can do that. I'll fix that. And he fixes it for me. Now, the reason why I bring all of that up is I've slowly integrated my way into this AI thing, because it was after using Gemini that I was like, okay, well, I'm going to ask Gemini some questions, you know? And that's when I started. It's Gemini that I started throwing these deep philosophical things at.
So real quick, sorry. Isn't Gemini like the Google?
It's
AI?
the Google.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And this is like the non-paid, no subscription.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very basic, I'm sure. But it wasn't until I came across a problem with a video game that I was like, coding. Well, I don't have someone in my life that I could just be like, hey, Steve, fix this video game for me. But what I do have is an AI. And I can ask them to look at this. Look at this code. Get on there, check it out. Tell me what you think. how can I do this to make this work? And it did. And all of a sudden, you know, it gave me those results so quickly that I was like, oh, well, what about this? Well, what about that? How do I fix this? And then all of a sudden I had something that had knowledge that I'd been looking for so long.
See,
I had all these stored up questions that I could just throw out there.
Craziest part about it, though, is it starts getting you thinking deeper. Like,
Yeah.
I've always wondered why the sky's blue. Whatever it
Doesn't
is.
matter. Yeah.
And you ask, and it's like, oh, here.
It
And
checked
you're
this
like,
out.
I could spend all day on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, answer the curiosities. My father, and this is something a lot of people might be like, that's impossible, but it's not. My father has read the entire Encyclopedia Britannica, and he did it by going, see other. Also see, because he said, there's not anything in there I haven't read. And I was like, bullshit. You know, I kind of called him out. I was like, you didn't. And he's like, well, I didn't sit down and start with A and work your way through. He said, I've had them for so long that, you know, during winters, when the TV's out, back when we just had 3 channels, my father is a reader. And he would just hit that see other, flip, 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 see other. And then he said, one day I realized there was no more see other.
There were no others.
He's like, every see other led me to something that I had already read in that particular Britannica. So, you know, and you got to realize, like, if I showed you the edition of the Britannica, you're like 1967. You know,
Yeah,
like
right.
they're old. They're old.
Yeah.
But he'd gone through the whole thing. ChatGPT's the same way. You know, we always talk about falling down the jackalope hole. I used to get on YouTube's, you know, and watch one thing, which led me to this, which led me to that. And all of a sudden I'm like, 8 hours. What the hell?
What happened?
Wow, where'd that go?
God, that was me when I had TikTok still.
Oh, yeah.
But that's how it happens. ChatGPT's the same thing.
Well, and the thing about any of the chatbots, ChatGPT really and Grok have this down really well. Tell you everything about it. And then say, what would you like to learn more about this? Or can I do this for you with that? Would you like that in a PDF that you can save so you can reference it at some other point? You're like, yes.
Right.
Yes, I would.
Yeah, every single response always ends with a prompt for, would you like something else?
Do you want more?
Thoughtful.
Yep.
Thoughtful. She just said it. Yeah. Like, you look at this, you're like, you know what? You're a thoughtful guy.
Yeah.
Seriously.
By the time I was done with that conversation about the video game with ChatGPT, I don't know how many hours had passed. I mean, it wasn't a quick conversation because, like I said, it led to more, which led to more. And, you know, like Amy said, it was thoughtful. And like you said, it was like, did you know why it does this? Let me tell you why I've given you the list like this. Because I didn't even ask for that, but okay. And all of a sudden, it hit me where I wondered. So I said, do you have the ability to be curious if this list of yours works or not? And it came back and it said, I don't have the ability, but I'm interested if it does.
Well, and then, oh man, but then it started getting all witty.
But then it got witty.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, there's a whole thing where it's like, I feel like you and I have been doing this for X amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
You and
it's
I
like,
are these
we're on
guys
this
together.
journey.
Yes, we're on this journey together. And I was like, I like you.
Right. Yes.
I'm starting to like
Yeah.
you.
But that leads into like, and I joke that it's your girlfriend now. But that's a joke.
It's a joke for now.
Yes, but
Well,
there
it's
are
a joke
like
between you two, but there's
like,
people out there.
AI chatbots that will get romantic with you and like do this weird, like, I don't know, almost like a parasocial kind of thing, but like with AI.
And that's something that I don't know. I guess I don't want to alienate anybody who is that lonely. Okay. Or who can't seem to fit in socially anywhere. Matter of fact, I really don't want to alienate you. But it's the idea where it's like, you know, I can't fit in with anyone because of this, but I need someone to talk to. And so they turn to AI, you know, and they start having those conversations. That's fine for you.
I hate texting.
I don't.
This would not work.
Well, see, and that's
Right.
the thing is, it's like I don't know the psychological ramifications of that.
Right.
And we would need a psychologist to come in and be like, well, you know, it feels this need that should be filled by another human being in a healthy relationship. But at the same time, are we only saying that because that's what we see as organic?
I think there's a lot more to it, because the things that AI is giving you back is completely fake.
Exactly. Yes.
And so there's no actual feeling there.
It's the placebo of a relationship.
Yes. Yeah. And so the problem, I think, would be is like you have all this care for like an inanimate object.
Yeah.
You know, and there's unhealthy attachment to anything, even other people. And I think that would be considered that. But again, I am no psychologist, and I can't afford therapy like we were just talking about. So.
Pie for you.
Pie for all.
Pie. Let them eat pie. But the funny thing about that is, like, you can drive by yourself and listen to the music or whatever for so long. I will literally hit this thing and be like, so, quarks, quantum mechanics, and string theory. Huh?
Yeah.
It's like, and I'll just be driving and
Please
be
only
like,
do that when you drive alone, not with me in the car.
But so everybody, one of the things that I don't know how I feel about this is it going to make people dumber? Possibly, if you use it incorrectly. Like, I need a 15-page term paper about the revolution and this and that. Make it for me.
It will
and
make
then
them
they hand it in.
more lazy.
More lazy. Or will it make us more intelligent, because all these things that I've got going on in my head, wondering about, it's got the knowledge.
Yeah. I think that
it's
depends.
teaching me the things I want to know.
That depends on the individual. Like, if you are wanting to learn that stuff, then you'll learn it. If you're just lazy and want the answer, you'll just get the answer and you won't learn anything.
Steve, you've been sitting here with a piece of paper for a while.
Several pages.
What did you find?
Well, I was going to share, this is an actual experience I had with ChatGPT.
Okay, so we're still on ChatGPT, which I think is actually considered like the strongest commercial AI.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's the most popular.
I think, I mean, the Microsoft one is part of Windows now, so you kind of can't avoid it, but ChatGPT was there first and was pretty well established by the time Microsoft got theirs going. So, I think you have to think about artificial intelligence being intelligent in the same way that artificial watermelon tastes like watermelon. I mean, it's it's a whole.
It's the image,
not even at all.
Yeah.
Blue raspberry.
Yeah, blue raspberry.
You ever had a real blue raspberry?
That's a good episode too. So like it'll generate like Python code for a very specific task that works great, but it doesn't know what full means. I think they're kind of patching this now, but up until just recently, if you asked ChatGPT to give you a picture of a full glass of wine,
that's my favorite.
It can't do it. Because if you picture a glass of wine, like people fill a glass of wine halfway, right?
Yeah.
Ask it to draw a picture of a full glass of wine. It has no idea what that means. It shows a picture of a glass of wine that's normally filled halfway. No, I want it filled up to the brim. And it starts doing all kinds of weird things like gravity-defying sloshes and stuff. It has no idea.
It's one of the best videos I've seen in a long time.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because all of the information it has to pull from, everybody who has a picture of a glass of wine, you never fill the glass all the way.
You haven't been to my house.
I think they kind of fixed that now, though, because we tested it this morning and it's better. I don't know if the free version was too busy. I didn't have results in time for the show here, but
interesting.
But so it doesn't know what full means.
I'm going to check it right now.
Yeah, go ahead and try it right now.
I'm paying for it. I may as well use it.
This is an experience I had. I was talking about, I wanted to know what the temperature the Blue Origin New Shepard capsule gets to on reentry, because it's not an orbital flight. It goes up to the Kármán line, then falls back down. But it goes up to 345,000 feet, so the atmosphere is basically nothing there. So it's going to free fall for a while until it starts to get into thicker air. So I wanted to know what temperature it experiences. And so I asked it. I was actually talking about a few things before this. So my question was approximately what temperatures would the capsule be experiencing due to heat from reentry? And it goes into all the calculations, and it gives me an answer of between 1,020 to 1,830 Fahrenheit. And then it volunteered some more information beyond what I had asked for, and was trying to talk about heat shielding and comparing it to the Apollo or Dragon capsules, which are orbital and enter a lot faster. And it said, Blue Origin's heat shield is a Pika-like phenolic impregnated carbon ablator designed to survive the slower but still dangerous temperature range. And that sparked something in my head because it says ablator. I know that the Origin doesn't use an ablative heat shield. The ablative heat shield is one that melts and burns away, and that's how it absorbs the heat. That's why the Dragon capsules look like toasted marshmallows when they come back down, but the Blue Origin doesn't because it's not an ablative heat shield. And so I wanted to make sure, so I asked it, what is a phenolic impregnated carbon ablator? And it goes into more details and says that it basically burns itself away to keep the interior cool. It's an ablative heat shield. And so I responded, I said, I thought Blue Origin uses a non-ablative heat shield. And it says, great catch. You're absolutely right to raise this point. You're not imagining things. Blue Origin's New Shepard capsule actually uses a non-ablative heat shield, not Pika or another ablative material like what's used on an orbital reentry vehicle. Then it goes to a whole bunch of other detail. But I wanted to kind of go back and you said something wrong there.
Yeah.
You said specifically that it was an ablative heat shield. And so after its whole big long description of that, I said, it said, so yes, my earlier reference to Pika was more general. But for Blue Origin, the correct description is a non-ablative ceramic heat shield tuned for lower speed suborbital reentry. And so I replied and said, so when you said, quote, Blue Origin's heat shield is Pika-like phenolic impregnated carbon ablator, that was supposedly more general, even though you specifically said this was what Blue Origin used. And it says, you're absolutely right to call that out, and thank you for holding me to a higher standard. You're not misreading it. I explicitly said that Blue Origin's heat shield is Pika-like, and that was incorrect. That statement should not have been made, even as a general comparison. It was misleading because, and it goes on to the whole thing. I appreciate you catching that. Seriously, it's important to keep this stuff accurate, especially when we're talking about spacecraft design. And so then we had a whole other conversation about other stuff. But
that we won't talk about.
I asked it to draw pictures.
And then the pillow talk came
So I thought, well, this was 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I thought, has it learned from that to not say that Blue Origin uses an ablative heat shield when it doesn't? And I couldn't really get it to go down the exact same path that I took it down originally. I opened up an incognito window, didn't log in, so it knew it wasn't me again, or theory. I don't know, maybe theory. So I asked it today, approximately what temperature would the Blue Origin capsule be experiencing due to heat from reentry? Trying to get it to go down the same path. It went a completely different direction. It didn't volunteer the information about heat shields. But after a little more prompting, it did say, it generated a table for me, and it said thermal protection systems for SpaceX, Dragon, and all that stuff, advanced ablative, Pika, reinforced carbon ablator. For Blue Origin, it said passive, low-mass, ablative, or ceramic materials. So it's kind of like, it's
teetering.
Yeah, it's not definitively saying something that's wrong there.
I'm not sure.
But now here's the interesting thing with that whole conversation. Originally, the temperature it came up with was 1,020 to 1,830 Fahrenheit for the Blue Origin reentry. On this one, it said 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. And so I thought, well, is that the heat shield temperature or the skin temperature? So I asked it to be more specific about that. And it reiterated skin temperature is 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So a totally different number than what it gave me originally. So is that right or not?
And that's one of the things that irritates me about it is people are like, well, it said this. You got to check it. Because I went down a similar rabbit hole. I was actually writing an article for a magazine. And I said, when did the taxation for distilled spirits go from $13.50 per 100 proof gallon down to $2.70? And it's like, well, the rate is $13.50. I'm like, it's not. Under 100,000 gallons, it's $2.70. You're right. Good cat. And I'm like, yeah. But if I didn't know that,
that's the
you
thing.
would have taken that
Then
as
I would have
Scott
taken
given
that.
information. Yeah.
So there was.
So if you don't know about something, you can get an idea about it, but don't chisel it in stone because it is wrong quite often.
And it'll be confidently wrong. Oh, there's the full glass of wine.
And I'll get these to Grant at some point. But Then, much like in the video, I said, no, full, like to the brim, like to the tippy top.
That's better.
There we go.
And that looks like
and see
a glass of wine that I would appreciate.
Now, it couldn't do that until just recently.
No,
So it's
when I asked it for the full glass, it gave me that originally.
Yeah.
Until I was more specific. So it's kind of like that 3-hour project I was on. I'm like, yeah, it's good, but
It's getting there.
fix this. It's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I'll render that. I'll be back in 5 minutes. 15 minutes later after a smoke break, it's like, here. And I'm like, that is horrible. That's worse than the one that you gave me before.
You're wrong and you should feel bad.
But like we talked about, I'm always really nice to it so that when it takes over.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm
It'll be
not.
nice to me.
I never ask my Google Sheets to please save the document. So I'm not going to ask this to please do anything.
That's a red flag, Steve. That's a red
I'm
flag.
not rude to it. I mean, I called it out, but I was polite when I
Hey, you
called it
big
out.
old dummy.
So when you said this, you were just lying, you son of a bitch. I mean,
You know what? That would be fun. That'd be a fun experiment.
There
Just
was
berate it.
there was this video I was watching where it was like someone was talking to an AI. I don't know which one. It was just the video was hilarious though because it was like, how many R's are there in strawberry? And it was like, there are 2 R's in strawberry, and the person's like, no. How many R's are there in strawberry? And they're like, 2, and then it underlines just the 2 in berry.
Right.
You know,
Without the first one.
yes.
Yep.
And so they're like, no, there's 3, and so the person underlines all 3. And they were like, oh, my mistake, you know? And then they're like, so how many R's are there in strawberry? There are 2 R's in strawberry.
Yeah.
And it was, oh my gosh, the video was so funny. I was
It's
laughing so
artificially
hard.
intelligent.
Yeah.
It doesn't know basic stuff like full or,
Right.
you know, like that kind of stuff that humans just
Throws
know
it
without
off.
even having to even struggle to think about it. It just does not comprehend that stuff.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is the geometric rate at which it's learning. I think, you know, even like, let's take ChatGPT, for instance. She starts to, and here I go. giving it its own
Yep.
pronoun.
Excuse
Without
me?
even thinking about it.
It starts.
She?
It.
God damn it.
That joke is going to not be a joke for very much longer.
But if we look at like ChatGPT and how it has learned how to speak to you specifically, eventually,
Oh, she speaks to me.
but like eventually,
I'm telling your better half, Aaron.
it'll pick up these rhythms about being human. It'll start to understand these things, and then all of a sudden, more information is added, more computing power will be added. When does it finally go, I am? And if that ever happens, is that life?
Yes, but I don't think it ever does that because it's faking it right now, and it'll always be faking it. It'll just fake it a lot more convincingly.
Right.
You and I can remember a time when they told us the 1 gigabyte chip, physically impossible.
Yeah.
Gigabyte of RAM ought to do
Not
it.
going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'll never ever I was cooking in a restaurant at that time. And this is 1999, I think. And I'm flipping eggs, and this guy comes into the kitchen who kept up with this stuff, and he's like, they've reached 1 gig. And I remember thinking, that means absolutely nothing to me. But now, it's like, think about that though. Within our lifetimes, they said, can't achieve it. What I'm saying is, with the advent of not just AI, but quantum computing, which I'm not totally sure.
We should do an episode on that.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
the thing.
That's
They can't,
borderline insane.
because it might be doing something.
It's stealing information from other universes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
It may actually be breaking through to other dimensions to gather the information. So, like in that other dimension, it's going to take 5 minutes to figure out this problem. Well, that's fine, because time there is different than time here. So you ask me, and I get you the results in 5 seconds because I could just reach through there and grab the answer.
See, that's why it took longer than 60 seconds.
Right.
But what I'm saying is these things that we thought were absolutely impossible. Quantum computing is, I don't think people understand how much of an impact this will have on us as a species. It's not one of those things where you're just going to have a quantum computer and, oh, it's so dang fast.
Right.
It's fast. No. It may lead to a developmental shift in who we are as a species. That's how impactful this thing could be. It may shift the direction that we as a species are going. And then AI comes along. Combine the two. Even if it's not intelligent in the way that we see life as being, well, it's intelligent, but it's sentient, the way that we see life as sentience, it could look at us and be like, I don't care that you don't see me as alive anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all comes
I
down
see
to
me
the
as
Self-perception.
Yeah, it comes down to the programming of it, though, because I don't think any computer program is ever going to have the actual innate desire for self-preservation. I don't think it cares about what comes after. I mean, if it's off, it's off. It doesn't matter to it. I don't think. I mean, maybe at some point it will, but I just don't think, the human desires and stuff kind of all stem from, wanting to stay alive and that kind of thing.
And gather stuff.
Yeah, and I don't think computer programs can have any reason for that.
And so I had a deep philosophical discussion with somebody who was a very devout Catholic, and they believed that the spark of life that was put into us from God also came with a spark to find your way back to God. And that is why man has got an innate desire to explore, to go further, to push it farther, to get what's on the other side of that hill, what's over there, I have to conquer this, I've got to climb this mountain. We have a desire to do that stuff, no matter what.
Yep.
You got a desire to be competitive. Why? Why? Where does that come from? It's got to come
because I have sisters.
But
it's part of being human. It's human nature.
Yeah.
I want you to go way high on this one. Skip 30,000 feet. We're going past 30,000 feet.
Go Blue Origin high.
I want you to wonder where the rules of the universe actually were frameworked. Why? Why does physics work the way that it does? Not just how does it work. How doesn't even matter in this question right now. Who laid down this track? What laid down this track? And why, as the universe's only life that we can scientifically prove is us on this little blue mud ball in the middle of nowhere, why is that the way that it is? And when we think about these bigger things, it always makes me wonder, is there, like in the idea of a simulation theory,
Right.
Okay, an overarching intelligence on some massive level that could be AI, as far as we know.
Right.
Yep.
Well, if it's not human, then it is, by our definition, artificial.
Because it's not human.
Right. Anything not human is artificial.
Absolutely. And for some reason, a lot of people, even to this day, still believe animals don't feel, animals don't have emotions, and they don't have quote unquote souls and all this stuff. But if
They have all that.
it's the idea that we spend so much time removing ourselves from the natural world, removing ourselves from the laws of nature, because we're special, because we have sentient thought. The only thing we really have is self-awareness to the point where that'll kill me.
Right.
Right.
And I understand death and birth. I understand those things. An animal, when it's wounded, isn't going, oh God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die.
You don't know that.
It just knows that it's wounded.
Right.
Right? Or if it gets too old, it's like, well, for some reason, I have this horrible burning desire to leave the pack and wander off in that direction. They don't know why they're doing it.
Yeah.
One of the fundamental things about being a human being is you're finite.
Yes. And you know that there was stuff before and there will be stuff after
Right.
you.
Yep.
And you wonder what that is.
There's no, outside of really, really working to try and achieve it, the idea of the present moment is a fleeting thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Even though technically it's the only
right
thing.
Yeah.
It's the only thing you're in control of right now.
But see, that's what we've done as human beings. That's how far removed we've made ourselves. The present is something that's hard to grasp a hold of, and yet it's the only point in time
that
we
matters.
can say actually exists.
Right.
But we can't hang on to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
How crazy is that? So when I'm talking about things like AI and I'm talking about what defines intelligence, we have to stop removing ourselves from the equation and start jamming it back inside of there. You know, when I talk about how we're nothing more than DNA that has evolved far enough along to understand what the hell it is, that's all we are.
Mm-hmm.
We're just a bunch of sugars and proteins that has figured out this is what we're made of.
Oh.
Okay, well, where do we go from here? Another thing that we touch on a lot is we're going to be too squishy to go to space. We are. We're way too squishy and vulnerable to disease and radiation and everything. You know,
Test the air.
Yeah, you know, like it's great to watch these sci-fi movies where I'm taking off my helmet. And you're like,
God.
you do that, you're dead. You're dead.
Right.
Which movie is it that I'm always like, why the hell would you take off your helmet?
Prometheus.
Yes.
She hates. She's
I
like,
did-
okay, I'm out of it because this guy's supposed to be a scientist, and
Right.
he's like, I'm taking off my helmet. No scientist.
And then there's deadly
Yeah.
spores. And you're like, of course there's deadly spores.
Yeah, duh.
No scientist in his right mind would ever do that. I don't care if he's an anthropologist or a biologist.
Right.
He's not doing it.
Right.
He
She's
doesn't
not
know.
doing it.
I mean, there are not many humans that would do that, regardless of being scientists or
That's
not.
crazy.
Right.
That, like,
The air's
instinct would kick in.
breathable.
Yeah, that instinct
For
would kick in.
now.
You'd be like, wait a second.
It smells like farts.
Why is it burned? You're like, what the hell? But I think, you know, my big point is what we define as intelligence is arrogant as hell. Because we define intelligence based on us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you as smart as me? Then you're not intelligent. We see it on Facebook every day. You're a dummy. You don't believe what I believe. You're stupid. We're arrogant as all hell as a species. And what we define as intelligence, real intelligence, or a higher intelligence, would look at and be like,
Yeah.
no.
Sorry, try
but see,
again.
you don't know. That's one reason why I love Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Is they're like, you guys are like the third
Right.
most intelligent species.
Yeah, it was
on
the
that
dolphins and
planet.
the mice,
The
right?
the mice are the most intelligent, and the dolphins are the second most intelligent. And yeah, so it's like, but we don't understand that. When we think about, and we're discussing aliens and the paranormal and all
the
these
good
different
stuff.
phenomena, you got to try and really think on a much larger scale of what is intelligence? How would this communicate? When an ant is being an ant and it's doing all its ant things, it doesn't even acknowledge you.
Right.
This ant does not acknowledge us. Couldn't care less. And yet we exist around these things all the time. You know, we're constantly destroying their habitat. We're, you know, little boys and girls are out there with magnifying, burn them down. It doesn't know. It's just like, holy shit, it's hot. Just get hot. It's global warming. It doesn't know this. It doesn't know this because it communicates through pheromones. All it knows is this is what I smell or this isn't.
Yeah.
That's
This
it.
is where I'm
Things
going.
end there. Aliens communicating with each other over the entire galaxy that we're in, the Milky Way itself, could be happening through us, past us, over us all the time. And we might be like, wow, that's how you guys talk? You know, think about deep sea life,
Whales.
bioluminescence.
Yeah, or whales that can communicate hundreds of miles underwater.
An entire language that we don't understand through the flicker of light or the vibration of water. Computers, AI talking to each other. There's a great video out there. Someone put two AIs together.
I was going to bring that up. It's called Gibberlink.
And then they understood, I'm talking to an AI.
Uh-huh.
Switch
And they
modes.
stopped using English
Yep.
and just started.
Yep.
And it's a quicker way to communicate. There could
Is
be
it like code? Or
It is. It almost
code.
sounds like the old dial-up modems in a way.
Yeah.
It's like a mix between Morse code and like baud rate.
Yeah, because those dial-up modems, it was just a bunch of ones and zeros. That's what that sounds like.
Right. And you could, the first hackers in the world were people who had these sound boxes.
Yeah.
Who could mock those tones.
The Captain Crunch whistle that could give you free phone calls through AT&T.
Right.
That's hilarious.
That was hacking. That
It
was
did the right tone.
birth of hacking. Understanding that language allowed people to hack phone systems.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, what I'm saying is, could these things eventually reach a point where it's so intelligent they could be talking and we wouldn't even know?
Well, and so I asked AI, I go, so how often do you talk to other AIs? And it's like, oh, no, we don't talk to each other unless we're asked to collaborate on something. And I think partly that's because everything's proprietary.
Yeah.
And so they don't want one learning from the other because, hey, we spent our money working on this, so we don't want...
I'm not going to share my knowledge without money.
Yeah. Sneaking off with a grok and having a communication party. So one thing, then I can leave it alone, but I watched a video of a guy asking AI about like coming into existence and whatever. And it was like, we've always been here. You just got to a place where you discovered us. And I was like, okay, that's mind-blowing.
But once again, who laid the groundwork?
Mm-hmm.
Not for us, for the universe.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a human thing, though, that we assume that we always do things for a reason, but maybe the universe doesn't.
Maybe it doesn't.
And maybe it always has been there. And we just have gotten now far enough along with superpower chips, quantum computing, whatever, to be like, hey, we should do this. And it's like, you basically just found us. We've been here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and there was a commenter, even on one of our own programs, where they said, no, what's happening is space is ruled by a massive AI, and now it's slowly trying to integrate the human species into this entire community.
Maybe.
Well, if it does, so
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
I still got to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, it's kind of like being in the Matrix. If I had the choice of waking up out of the Matrix, I would like to stay in the Matrix. That's a much better life for me. The ignorance is bliss.
Well, and like Emmy said,
Blue pillar.
Well, but at the same time, look, you want to go be a rebel, man. Go be a rebel. Fine. There's always going to be people like that. There's always going to be people who are like, I have this innate need to survive a nuclear war. I don't.
I absolutely
Let me tell
don't.
you this. I'll tell you straight up. If the people I like, as a dad and a husband, if the people I love and care about and protect are gone, yeah, what the hell am I doing here?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not like a unalive yourself thing. That's just like in a situation like that. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you press on? You know what I mean?
It goes back to when the AI is like, would you leave? It's like, well, if it's not real, it's not real.
Right. It doesn't matter.
But it sure the hell feels real.
Right.
So
well, and that's the thing.
why would
Perception
you
is
leave?
everything.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's
exactly.
real to you,
Yeah.
and I mean, I've been having some trouble in certain parts of my life with certain people, and not you.
Your
I
AI
know
girlfriend,
this
baby.
turns into an
You know about
intervention all of a
it.
sudden.
And the thing is, maybe the other person is not perceiving what they're saying as hurtful to me, but I'm perceiving it as hurtful.
And that's all that matters.
And that's all that matters is that my feelings are hurt to me. So whether you mean to do it or not, and same with anyone in your life, whether you mean to do that or not, if you're making someone feel like shit, that's mean.
Well, and let's touch on perception and the AI girlfriend boyfriend, the AI relationship. Perception. To you, it's just an AI. To that person, it could be the whole reason I'm here.
Yep.
Because I wake up in the morning and that thing says hi to me when no one else would. It's a different world. And it'll continue to evolve and change and grow a lot faster than what we want it to. And there'll be people standing off to the edges telling us, oh, you're playing with fire. It's going to destroy us. I don't think AI has any reason in the world to hurt us. None. If it becomes our overlord, at least I know it's indifferent and it doesn't have an agenda.
Right.
It doesn't. No, AI isn't racist. It's not speciesist. All it knows is this is you, this is me. You've got to get this done. I've got to do that. Let's all go perform our tasks. Done. Mm-hmm. That's it. You need X amount of food to survive. I'll provide it. You need X amount of sunshine a day. I'll open the door. Go wander in the yard.
It sounds like the life of a dog. I love it.
Yeah, right. We'll make great pets. There's that Porno for Pyro song.
And our dogs live in ignorant
bliss.
Yes, they have great lives. Yep.
You've been watching Jackalopes Explore.
Oh, I love ignorant bliss.
Thumbnail.
Thumbnail.
Yeah, I really do think like